What's up, everybody? Kenny here, also known as Silent85. Welcome to another vlog. I wanted to talk this time about fear. I'm currently on a short break at work. My beard's a little rough, but forgive me, I'm just sweating like crazy. Fear, ruled my life for a while, and I think honestly, it tends to rule 95 to 99% of people's lives. I know there are people out there that live without fear. Most of the time, these people are fairly, in a lot of ways, fairly well off. There's not really a whole lot of things to be feared, except for maybe death or, something taken away, I guess. But what about mental subjugation? That's a hell of a word, isn't it? Basically, you've had fear instilled into you. Especially like as a kid, like in my case, there's always stuff that be afraid of this if you do that, or if you don't think this way, you will go here. If you do think this way, you'll go here. And in a lot of ways, you're taught to live enthralled within a certain mindset. You're taught to be thankful for it because you're being how do I put this? Being saved from what is supposed to happen, even though there's no actual proof that it can happen, aside from certain things being said throughout the generations or read. So there's always that. I mean, there's always something. It's your parents teaching you something, or it's your grandparents that put something on you if they're not decent. If they're not decent parents or grandparents, and they want to control you, like they want to control your life. Or there's a person in your life that's doing the same thing, or you're doing it to yourself. You're mind washing yourself with fear. I did that. I did that for a long time, for a certain amount of people. And it's funny because for a long time I lived, just to take it to a religious basis, I lived in fear. And from my childhood to my late teens, I lived in fear of going to a hell, if I didn't live the way I was told instead of the way I wanted. And then as I came into the realization some years later that that's not how I'm built mentally, I lived in fear of Christians, borderline hate of Christians, because Christianity, from one very dark source in my childhood, was focused through that dark prism. And the teachings of Christianity were wielded in such a way that was very hateful. Now, with that said, from what I said at the beginning of the video, that's at the very basis of living in a fear when you get down to it. And that's the problem. After I got over the hate, after I got over the fear of Christians, and the fear of religion, I realized, that's kind of what religion is. There's a fear of going to hell. So you're taught to be what the teachings want you to be, which is just a decent human being. Killing, stealing, everything that's covered in the Ten Commandments. It's just being a decent human being. But on the other side of it, there's a fear taught that if you don't do it and then you don't ask for forgiveness, you're going straight to a lake of fire. And it's that way for a lot of religions around the world. The same can be said for political parties. You got these big groups that are influencing you mentally, saying that if you do this or you vote that way, those people over there will win. It's essentially a Super Bowl. They want you to root for your team. And politics influence that as well. Economy influences that. Money influences fear. And there's a lot of fear to be had in day-to-day life. There's a lot of fear to be had in childhood. There's a lot of fear to be had in the future. And if I'm being honest, I mean, like, the the things I fear nowadays is losing myself, because I'm still trying to balance everything with help from medication, with help from, psychologists every so often. I talk to people. I'm building my life better. And I mentioned in the previous vlog, one of the things is I used to deal with so much anxiety, my fingernails would literally be torn up. But I'm doing better about that the last couple of weeks because, to shout out her name, Lady Psylocke. I mean, she caught me a couple times on the road, and that really helped. Also, my folks, So it takes outside sources to really take a look at you and see, like, what's going on. People you trust wholeheartedly. You know. So there's a lot to fear, or a lot that is you're supposed to fear, or so you're told in life. But at the same time, there's a lot of support and there's a lot of light. To live in fear is to live a life that's very sheltered, that's very closed-minded in a lot of ways. It keeps you from experiencing new things. It keeps you from knowing your limits, to knowing who you can be and who you want to be, instead of who you're told to be. So I guess my overall message is, don't let fear of the unknown, or don't let taught fear or experienced fear keep you from any of that. Be who you want to be. Be who you are truly. As long as nobody's getting hurt, obviously. But it's important to you, whether you realize it or not. If you let fear keep you from certain parts of yourself, you're not whole. And you'll never be whole. And it's when you start to feel whole. Giggity. I just ruined the moment. It's when you start to it's when you start to feel whole that any damage you suffered can start to heal into a small scar, or can heal in general. There's some damage you never fully recover from. There really isn't. And you got to keep working on it. Like, you got to keep trying. But you got to keep working on it too, because you could reach the end of your life and it'll still be a small amount of pain, but you probably never recovered from it. But as compared to what it used to be, before you grew to care more about yourself, and before you grew more and got stronger, and not listening to everybody, and just yourself, began to trust yourself more instead of outside input, and being who you are, and do what you want to like, experience what you want to like. And it's a different feeling, man. It's a totally different feeling. Personally, I'm still working on it. In percentages, before where my life was, I was probably 40 to 45% whole. Nowadays, I'm at about 80% within the last 10 years of everything I've experienced. I still have fears, like I said, that I'm facing down. And as I discover those more and more, and I say fears in the multiple because I know of one fear right now exactly that I know. And again, that's losing myself, and in doing so, potentially hurting others emotionally, because I'm still discovering myself and where I'm at after what I've experienced. And so when I say hurting people, I mean like broken hearts, or not being able to be there for them when they need me. That's very questionable with me right now, because I am having to still work on myself and help out some other people that are very important to me. So there's always a balance in life. There's always a ratio you got to keep an eye on, and that's what's helped me mentally. Anyway, a bit of a long-winded vlog. Maybe it'll help some folks, but remember, just try not to live in fear as much as you can help it. Just be a good person. Be who you want to be, and don't let anybody get hurt, including yourself. But don't limit yourself. Personally, I think that's one of the worst things you can do. And if there is such a thing as a sin, that is a sin in and of itself, is limiting yourself. It's a sin to you, by definition. Anyway, I'll see you later. Stay safe, stay sane. Remember, you're awesome. Never let the world tell you otherwise. See ya.